I don't do weakness. We're not kittens. Nobody's weak. Start to recognise how you show up in the eyes of others.
Get ready to be thoroughly entertained, hilariously challenged, and profoundly inspired. Jack Phillips and Gabriel Dolan are here to make you laugh, challenge your thinking, and ignite that spark of inspiration within you.
Because it's real.
They're not just your average podcast hosts. They're like the superheroes of real-life experiences and witty insights. They've got more stories than a library, more wisdom than a fortune cookie factory, providing awesome intel on the secrets to professional and personal success. They are so real and authentic. They put this voiceover to shame. Strap yourself in for Keeping It Real with Jack and Rao.
Welcome back to Keeping It Real with Jack and Rao, and you are with the amazing Jack Phillips.
And the even more amazing, maybe not more, even amazinger, even maybe not, Gabriel Dolan.
Yes, we're both amazing, so all good.
And humble.
We have got a very exciting podcast today, something that's
It's a crowd pleaser.
It is a crowd pleaser, something we get asked a lot about. But before we get to that, we've got questions. It's mail time.
Thank you. Mail time. I like mail
Yeah,
time. Mailbag time.
Mailbag? I don't know. We didn't discuss what we're going to call it.
True.
We got questions is what we're going to do. Thank you for, we've got 2 really good questions that have come in. So just a reminder, if you've got a question you want to ask us, just ask away and we will answer it. We will do our very best to answer it. And this one is a really, really good one. This came in from Sam and they asked, what do you do if you worked with a perfectionist? So this, I think, was coming from our last episode on, all about you being a perfectionist. But what if you work for someone? Jack, I reckon you would know how to answer this.
Dealing with this a bit in my coaching at the moment, Raul, and it's a tough one because not everyone will admit or even know or recognise that they are a perfectionist. So if you are working for a perfectionist and you've recognised they've got certain traits that you're finding it difficult to work under or work for, then the best way to go about it is to have a respectful but direct conversation, one-on-one, never ever publicly. And you can approach it by saying, I need to understand the expectations from you on this particular task or initiative. And once you understand the expectations, repeat that back so we're all aligned. Start there. If you return and it's not right, if you return with the initiative or the task done and they say, oh, I wanted this, you can then say, when we spoke about this, it was clear that this is what we want and we both agreed on that. If there's something more you want, it would be helpful if you told me. But could it be that what I've done is good enough? It's just you would have preferred a bit more. And maybe there's a way that we can talk about that going forward. So it's about
that's a pretty tough conversation to have, though, if you're
tough.
doing with your boss.
Very tough. But it's respectful. So you say that. I want to make sure I'm understanding you so I can deliver for you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good conversation to have with your boss.
Could you also, part of that conversation, to say, just letting you know what you've asked for is going to take significantly longer. It's going to take 4 hours. Do you still want me to do it?
Sure. That's a great way of doing it. Something as a leader I always encourage people I'm coaching is to say, ask, is there any barriers to you getting this done? So that whoever's getting it done can say, well, I'm a bit worried it might take me longer, but that is a good one. So put the time frame around it.
Okay.
But the key here is be respectful, point it out, have that honest one-to-one conversation, but make sure it's respectful. You don't have to say, I think you're a perfectionist. That might not get you off on the right foot. But what you might do is infer that what they're expecting and what you're expecting are 2 different things. It's a misalignment of expectation.
Okay, good. So not an easy fix, and that's a pretty tough situation to be in, but there's ways to do it. So second question.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was anonymous
one. And I've forgotten what that question was.
Oh, Jack, well, luckily I have the most
genius.
organised one. This came from, I think it came from one of our original episodes when we were talking about just doing it. What about if you've got an idea and you speak to someone, because that's the advice we gave to people, like speak to someone. What if that person says, no, don't do it?
So it talks you out of it, or
Yeah.
suggests you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Do you have an answer for this?
Well, again, tough. I would, if I really, really wanted to do it, I would, I'd probably speak to someone else. You know, often we're waiting for the answer. But I would genuinely, I would be going, why? Why do you think? And there might be some valid reasons.
True.
There might be really valid reasons that you haven't thought about it. So maybe it's a timing issue. So it's not quite right. I would also look at their intention behind it, because you could imagine. I mean, you could imagine, like, you know, some people, when I go, well, who's your sponsor or mentor, it's their manager, and I'm like, you know, your manager might be a great manager, but if you leave, that's not good for them. And I'm not saying they want to keep you. So it's almost like, why would that person be saying something, or do they come from a place of fear?
Yeah.
So I would be looking at who you're seeking advice from.
I think that's a very, very valid point. And perhaps ask more than one person if you're not sure. Usually our gut, our intuition is spot on. Yeah. So if you've got a bit of a feeling or an inkling that what they're telling you isn't actually right, then definitely test that. Go and ask others and agree. Identify exactly what role they play in your life.
Yeah. Maybe ask 3 people, and then if 2 are saying don't, or 3 are saying don't, then maybe
Sure,
don't.
sure. What was Henry Ford's great line? You know, if I'd asked people what to do, they would have said, build a faster horse.
Yeah.
So when it comes to business and entrepreneurship, sometimes you have to fly solo. So back yourself,
Absolutely.
irrespective of what people say.
Yeah. Yeah, who you seek feedback. I know a lot of, talk about the practice. A lot of people give me business advice, and I just go, I don't run a business, I run a practice, because it's, well-intentioned bad advice.
Yeah.
So, so that's a good couple of questions
Great couple
to
of
kick us off. And if you got any more, send them in. So today's topic, very, very excited.
Can I announce it?
You can announce it.
Today we are talking about personal brand. Own it, baby.
Yeah, own your personal brand.
Love personal brand.
Yeah.
There's a few people out there that say personal brand's wanky. Who wants a personal brand? Who needs a personal brand?
Everyone's got a personal brand.
I totally agree. I think it's really critical who you want to be known.
Yeah, I run a couple of workshops on personal brand, and I'll often go, who's got a brand? Who's got a brand? And you hear, like Oprah or Donald Trump, or but famous people, and it's like everyone's got a brand.
Everybody's got a brand.
Everyone's got a brand. My favorite quote about brand, if you look up what brand is, you get lots of quotes. One of my favorite quotes comes from Steve, what's his name?
No, Jeff Bezos.
Jeff
isn't it?
Bezos, right.
Yeah.
And it's about your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. I do a little bit. I stole that a bit and tweaked it to say your brand are the stories people tell about you when you're not in the room, because I think ultimately people tell stories about, like if someone said, oh, what's Jack like?
Good point.
I would probably share stories on that. And so your brand's important, right?
Brand's critical, absolutely critical. There's nothing more important. And I think personal brand is only wanky if you're not being authentic.
Yeah, true. But if you think about it, if your brand, based on your brand, people will employ you.
Correct.
They will promote you.
Correct.
They will buy from you. They will refer you, recommend you, and that's all on your brand. So when the stakes are that high, you probably want to be taking it seriously.
Question. Of all the work you get, and you get heaps, I know you're inundated, how much of it is referral or recommendation?
Oh, I would say 99%.
Wow.
So, I've been doing this for a while. So, 19 years now doing it.
Sure.
So it's a lot of referrals. The amount of people, and I often say, how did you come to me? And occasionally people go, I did a Google search and found you. But mostly, in fact, I got an email the other day and it started with, congratulations on being so highly recommended.
Wow.
And, and she goes, I literally spoke to 3 people about, we
brand.
want storytelling. Do you know of anyone? And every single person said you. And they said, not only you, but just said, don't even speak to anyone else. I was like,
How good's
thank
that?
you. So, so brand's important.
Okay. So do you think you need to be strategic with it? Yeah. So does your personal brand just evolve or happen, or do you actually have to plan and prepare for it?
Yeah. So I think you definitely have to be strategic with it. I think a couple of things happen. Your brand does evolve. Okay, so naturally your brand evolves.
Well, you evolve, so
So you evolve.
with you.
So of course your brand evolves. But if you're not strategic about it, it's evolving without you having any control over it. So a really great example, and I wrote about this in one of my books, and I'm not saying that to be wanky that I wrote a book,
She's
but
an author, you know.
it's
6 books, you know.
failed English, you know. But it was the book's the important part of it, because when I first started doing storytelling, so I left my corporate gig. I don't think I spent a lot of time on brand. So this was 20 years ago. But what I did know is that I wanted, because storytelling was professional but different. Like I knew, like storytelling is different, and especially 20 years ago it was different.
unique.
But
It
I still
was.
wanted to be like, this is still professional. So I think by default, my brand I took on was professional but different. And so I took that in the way I dressed. So for example, I would no longer wear the corporate suit. I would wear like jeans and a blazer. It would still be good. Like it's still professional, but it was different. And then I came across a pair of shoes about 10 years ago that was really cool. They were silver. They were flat. I love flat shoes. I hate wearing high heel shoes. And I wore them, and they were made from Italian leather, beautiful, Melbourne designer, Habit, plug. Not that I'm getting, do we get
kickback.
endorsements? But anyway. They were professional but different, and everyone kept commenting about my shoes. And with it, really, really quickly, the shoes became part of my brand. So in one of my books, there's the one I'm on the cover, and it's a full length, and even the publisher said your shoes need to be in the thing
shot.
because it's become part of your brand. So I was aware of that, but it suited my brand. So I knew I was okay with it because it was professional but different. This was a few months before COVID hit. I decided to get those fake nails, the SMS nails. I think I don't know. I was going to a wedding or something, and I got them on, and I sort of liked them because, when you typed, it made you sound like you were typing really fast. Anyway, I sort of liked them, but they're a pain in the ass. Like every 3 weeks, you got to go back to the nail place, and you got to get them soaked off and redone. Anyway, and once you stop them, your nails look a bit ugly, right? So I did it like about 3 times. Yep. And I'm thinking, this is not me. This is too high maintenance for me. But then COVID hit. So I couldn't go back to get my nails off. And so as a little bit of a joke, I put on my Instagram, a photo of my nails going, how long will these last? And then the next week I go, 2 fell off. So I was taking photos of my nails like as a bit of a joke, how long they would last. Then I noticed people started to send me stuff on fake nails. And that's when I thought, I don't want to be associated with fake nails. Like of all the things, like I'm about real, this is so against my brand. So I actually deleted every post I had done on it. And I remember thinking at the time, that's a little bit over the top. Surely no one's not noticing that much. Anyway, this is the reason I shared the book. I wrote about that in my book, the latest book, Magnetic Stories. And I gave the copy of the book to a few people for feedback, including yourself. One of them I gave was a client of mine. And the feedback, he talked about the book, and he goes, I must admit, when I was seeing your post about fake nails, I thought to myself, that's so against brand.
Wow.
So I wasn't over-exaggerating. People were seeing that and thinking this is against my brand. It was a misalignment to my brand. So you've got to be aware of what your brand is, and then make sure everything you do is aligned to that.
What I love about that story isn't the fact that you were, and I remember those posts, and they were entertaining, and during COVID we were all looking for entertainment. So you tick the box there, and you are entertaining. That is your brand. However, the content of what you were talking about was off-brand. But I love the fact that you course-corrected.
Yes.
So the point is, you recognised, hang on, what am I doing? Fake nails. I don't want to be known for fake nails. I didn't realise I'd get so much engagement. So course-corrected and got rid of it, but actually used it as a great opportunity for helping other people.
Yeah.
Recognize what is your brand, what do you stand for, what are people talking about and engaging with you on, or what are they aligning you with?
Yeah.
I think that's terrific.
And so if I wasn't aware of what my
your
brand
brand is.
was, and if I wasn't aware of what I did could affect my brand, the fake nails would have just gone on, and then it's not me. It's not me. So I think it's a great example of your brand does evolve organically. But you've got to be strategic, and if you're not taking control of it, you're running a real risk that your brand is evolving in a direction that's not serving you.
It's a great point. One of the tools I use with who I coach is a client questionnaire that you fill out before we get started. So that gives me some real background on you and gives me a sense of the goals, coaching goals that you want to achieve, so that we can be very clear on what we're going to do during our coaching. And one of the questions I ask is, what is your personal brand?
Can people answer that easily?
80% of people say, I don't know, Jack. I'm hoping you can help me. The 20% that answer it are usually quite clear, and it's fabulous to read. I am somebody who. I have been told I am, and I always think that's a really good sense of who I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
But most, 80%, say, I don't know. That's not something I've focused on, and yet I want to.
So what do you do? Give us maybe practical tips. So what do you do?
There's a real process.
Yeah,
there's a real process I go through.
Do share.
All right, I'll give you a free coaching session. So when it comes to personal brand, it's actually not your opinion of yourself. It's what others observe and experience of you. That's actually the facts. So you can tell yourself all you like. You can tell yourself, I'm the most authentic person in the world, even though I wear fake nails or fake eyelashes.
In your case.
Lean into them, love them. But if other people have a different perspective of you, then only then are you aware of what your personal brand is. So we start with feedback. When it comes to my strengths, what are they in your eyes or your experience? And can you give me some examples of those? Now, we never ever go out and ask for just strengths feedback. We also, in the same request, say, and any areas of development. I don't do weakness. We're not kittens. Nobody's weak. But you will have areas of development, things that you need to get better at, or things other people think you need to get better at. So with the strengths, we then focus on what people are saying. And then what I get my client to do is to collate all of the feedbacks on the strengths, put all of that into a document, and then talk to me about those strengths. Read them out to me. And they go, but you can see them. I say, no, read them out. I want to hear you say what other people have said about you.
Is that about getting them to start to own it?
Familiarisation, spot on. Start to recognise how you show up in the eyes of others. And sometimes someone will say to me, oh, yeah, but I already know that. I know I'm a really good communicator. And I'll say, okay, keep reading. So they read on, and we get to 3 or 4 more people. And I say, any themes through this? Yeah. Oh, people have pulled out my organisational skills a lot. Oh, people have said how strategic I am. I sort of knew I was, but, people really think that of me. Yes, that is who you are. You are strategic. You are organised. You're a great storyteller, or you're terrific with numbers. You're very, very commercial. Whatever it is, understand what those strengths are. And there's usually 3 or 4 that are quite consistent. There's your personal brand. But the trick is not to stop there. Okay, so now you know it and you're a bit more familiar with it. How do you use that and bring that into your everyday narrative? So an example of that might be when you're talking to a staff member or your team or your leader, dropping it in. It's obvious because I am quite strategic.
Yes.
And people have told me that. That's not my opinion of myself. That's actually a fact. That I will look at it this way. Start to remind people of who you are and what you are based on what they've told you. Nothing better than being in an interview. So, Raul, tell me about your strengths. So instead of Raul going, oh, well, I'm really good at storytelling and I've got a lot of experience when it comes to presenting. I'm also a published author. Raul can say, thank you for asking about my strengths. I recently asked for feedback from people that know me very well, people I work with, and they said these 4 things. This is based on their feedback, their observations, their experience. All of a sudden, it's not about an opinion. Yeah. It's about fact.
Yeah. just when you were talking then, it reminded me of the power of feedback. And because I think I know what my brand is and pretty strong on it. I was in an audience once and I was watching a speaker, and the speaker I knew quite well. So Kieran is a great mate, and she was speaking. And she was sort of talking about brand. And I'm just in the audience, and she went, for example, Gabrielle Dolan was like, hello. She starts talking about me. She goes, now people buy Ralph for storytelling, but what they're really buying that she doesn't know they're buying. And I'm sitting there going, what are they buying? What are they buying? She goes, what they're buying is certainty. And I went, oh, and she went on to say, when someone brings, you're bringing me in to do storytelling, and this was a while ago when storytelling probably wasn't
a thing.
You get certainty that someone knows that I'll deliver and I'll be reliable and the content will be good. And it was like, wow, I had never, ever thought about it that way. And then I spoke to a few people and they're going, oh, yeah, absolutely. I was like, why didn't anyone tell me that? So I wouldn't say... I would have never have said certainty is part of my brand, but but what you just said then, and I don't think I'd say it, but I would go, well, what many clients have said to me is what they get when they get me is certainty, and
That's your brand.
that's my brand. So, well, that's part of my brand. Part of my brand.
It is. Very good. Okay, so what do you do specifically to keep amplifying your personal brand so people know what they're buying, what they're getting?
Yeah. So I do a similar thing. Yours sounds sounds very cheap and nasty compared to you. Yours, what you do with brand, but it's the same thing as get feedback. So but I think it's also what do you want to be known for? So what I get people to do is go, if you chose 5 words that people would describe you, what would they be? And so that's when people go, oh, strategic or authentic or generous, right? Whatever. And I always suggest that your brand should be future forward looking. So I reckon always look about 2 or 3 years ahead because we do evolve. I then get them to ask people. So getting that and to see if there's and then sometimes you should expect some overlap.
Yeah.
So
Agree.
saying this is your brand, it's not wishful thinking. You're not making a wish list. So if you want to say I want to be known as collaborative and no one says you're collaborative, then
That's aspirational.
that's aspirational, which it could be okay. But to me, that's the stuff you got to amplify. So if you say I want to be known as authentic and everyone says authentic, it's almost like, right, I'm known for that. I keep chugging along with that. But when there's a gap, I need to amplify that. I need to find opportunities. So I love what you were saying before. Like if you want to be known as strategic, it can be not as simple. You have to be strategic. Like you got to do it. Like this isn't, you got to do it. But it's like when you can say, I think we just need to be strategic here. So looking for opportunities to use the word in meetings. Your LinkedIn profile is a great way, like in your summary, to write strategic thinker or whatever, or is known as authentic and generous,
And then demonstrate
whatever,
that
and
regularly.
demonstrate it. So it's not only the words you're using, the stories you're sharing, but looking for opportunities to actually live and breathe it.
Couldn't agree more. Because it is about authenticity. It is your personal brand. So it is who you are as a person.
Yeah.
I like the aspirational. So where do I want to be?
Yeah.
However, you still have to have an alignment to that. I remember years ago, I used to struggle with maths. I'm hopeless with numbers, absolutely hopeless with numbers. But I became so convinced I was hopeless with numbers, I'd tell as many people as I could that I was hopeless with numbers, which was actually not accurate. When it comes to budgets and understanding how to spend money...
because you were hopeless with numbers.
No. There you are. Thank you. But be careful about what we tell ourselves as well. But don't lean into something that is just unrealistic. If your personal, you want your personal brand to be, I want to be known as the most, commercial person that ever ran a business, and you're struggling to get revenue in or find clients, then either work on that in order to achieve it, or recognise that's not your strength actually, and hire somebody else to help you with that. Yeah. So it very much has been true to yourself.
Yeah, and I think your brand, you talk about strengths or values or whatever. It's so it's not, it's aspirational but not a wish list.
Yeah.
And then look for opportunities to share it. So, I know for me, one of my brands that I work with clients is I want to be easy to deal with. And so when sometimes decisions need to be made and you sort of go, I could charge them a cancellation fee or whatever, and you just go, you know what, just be easy to deal with and just go, that's fine. We'll move on. So
Do you have a limit though? I'm just thinking with that specific...
Yeah, look, no, I do have the limit. You don't want to be...
cancelled on every 2 minutes.
Yeah, but the reality is you want to be easy to deal with.
And
so
how often are the cancellations? Very rarely.
very rare.
So
Normally it's no one's fault.
Yeah.
Like an earthquake's
Life
happened
happens.
or something
Yeah.
like that. So are we ready to do the final little tips?
I think so. I think
we are.
I was going to say to you, I was going to ask you, what are the 3 quick things
there you go.
somebody listening in could do to take control of their personal
Yeah.
brand?
Well, I think it's one we both spoke about is get feedback. So ask other people. So you have an idea of what you want to be known for, but then you ask other people. And it could be simply as saying, how would you,
Describe me.
how would you describe me? What's 5 words you would use to describe me? As simple as that. That's one.
Yeah.
That's, I reckon, the first place to
Yep.
go.
Yep.
The
Agreed.
second one is what we talked is look for opportunities.
Yeah. And then use those opportunities, yeah? So if somebody has described you or has given you feedback around certain strengths, then weave those into your daily narrative. Tell them to yourself, become very familiar with them so that you are confidently leaning in to those strengths, because obviously it's a self-fulfilling prophecy here.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think that's a good one.
And I think the final one is just it's not bullshit, right? It's got to be congruent. It's not saying I'm something,
Yeah.
and then I'm not.
Not doing
so, to me, a personal brand is your authentic self. And
Yeah.
yes, you can be strategic, and yes, you can amplify things you need to, but you have to be congruent. And it's probably no surprise that we think that's a really important one, given we're talking about being real,
Keeping
and
it real.
keeping it real, which great name for a podcast.
who knew?
If you liked what you heard, remember little 5 stars. We want part of our personal brand is we want to be known as the 5-star podcast.
That was new.
Oh no, we just
I
thought
like
of
it.
that.
I
Thought
like
of
it.
that.
And also send in questions. Yeah, we've got a mailbag.
Yes.
And we're only able to answer 1 or 2 as we go, but we will try and respond to as many. But yeah, this show is to help people. This is to give out advice and share with you what's worked for us.
Yep. So let us know what's on your mind. We'll answer it. As always, if you want to watch us, head to Spotify and YouTube, and you'll just see us talking about brand. We've decided to wear black every time. So we're not men in black. We're bitches in black.
Bitches in black. I like it.
I like it too.
B&B,
That could
like
be.
it.
Oh God, that could
Keeping
be the
it
name
real.
of the podcast. Keeping it real with the bitches in black, Jack and Rao.
Bye.
You've been listening to another episode of Keeping It Real with Jack and Rahl. If you like what you've heard, don't forget to tell others about it and give a 5-star review. They may seem confident, but they really are sensitive 5-star needy souls. Yeah, right. Keeping It Real, created by Jack Phillips and Gabriel Dolan. Produced by Keelan Ferrari Brown. And this really real voiceover, spoken by Richard Phillips.